AWS Certified Database, Specialty, DBS-C01, dumps are newly updated to help you pass DBS-C01 exam with high score. 1. A database specialist needs to delete user data and sensor data 1 year after it was loaded in an Amazon DynamoDB table. TTL is enabled on one of the attributes. The database specialist monitors TTL rates on the Amazon CloudWatch metrics for the table and observes that items are not being deleted as expected. What is the most likely reason that the items are not being deleted? A. The TTL attributes value is set as a number data type. B. The TTL attributes value is set as a binary data type. C. The TTL attributes value is a timestamp in the Unix epoch time format in seconds. D. The TTL attributes value is set with an expiration of 1 year. Answer: B. 2. A database specialist deployed an Amazon RDS-DB instance in DBS-C01 used by their development team. DBS-C01 has a peering connection with DBS-C02 that belongs to a different development team in the same department. The networking team confirmed that the routing between VPCs is correct. However, the database engineers in DBS-C02 are getting a timeout connections error when trying to connect to the database in DBS-C01. What is likely causing the timeouts? A. The database is deployed in a VPC that is in a different region. B. The database is deployed in a VPC that is in a different availability zone. C. The database is deployed with misconfigured security groups. D. The database is deployed with the wrong client connect timeout configuration. Answer: C. 3. A database specialist must create nightly backups of an Amazon DynamoDB table in a mission-critical workload as part of a disaster recovery strategy. Which backup methodology should the database specialist use to minimize management overhead? A. Install the AWS CLI on an Amazon EC2 instance. Write a CLI command that creates a backup of the DynamoDB table. Create a scheduled job or task that executes the command on a nightly basis. B. Create an AWS Lambda function that creates a backup of the DynamoDB table. Create an Amazon CloudWatch events rule that executes the Lambda function on a nightly basis. C. Create a backup plan using AWS Backup. Specify a backup frequency of every 24 hours, and give the plan a nightly backup window. D. Configure DynamoDB backup and restore for an on-demand backup frequency of every 24 hours. Answer: C. 4. A company migrated one of its business-critical database workloads to an Amazon Aurora multi-AS DB cluster. The company requires a very low RTO and needs to improve the application recovery time after database failovers. Which approach meets these requirements? A. Set the max_connections parameter to 16,000 in the instance level parameter group. B. Modify the client connection timeout to 300 seconds. C. Create an Amazon RDS proxy database proxy and update client connections to point to the proxy endpoint. D. Enable the query cache at the instance level. Answer: C. 5. A business is transferring its on-premises database workloads to the Amazon Web Services (AWS) cloud. A database professional migrating an Oracle database with a huge table to Amazon RDS has picked AWS DMS. The database professional observes that AWS DMS is consuming considerable time migrating the data. Which activities would increase the pace of data migration? Select 3. A. Create multiple AWS DMS tasks to migrate the large table. B. Configure the AWS DMS replication instance with multi-as. C. Increase the capacity of the AWS DMS replication server. D. Establish an AWS Direct Connect connection between the on-premises data center and AWS. E. Enable an Amazon RDS multi-as configuration. F. Enable full large binary object (LOB) mode to migrate all LOB data for all large tables. Answer: A, C, D. 6. A company's database specialist implements an AWS database migration service (AWS) DMS task for change data capture (CDC) to replicate data from an on-premises Oracle database to Amazon S3. When usage of the company's application increases, the database specialist notices multiple hours of latency with the CDC. Which solutions will reduce this latency? Choose 2. A. Configure the DMS task to run in full large binary object (LOB) mode. B. Configure the DMS task to run in limited large binary object (LOB) mode. C. Create a multi-as replication instance. D. Load tables in parallel by creating multiple replication instances for sets of tables that participate in common transactions. E. Replicate tables in parallel by creating multiple DMS tasks for sets of tables that do not participate in common transactions. Answer: B, E. 7. A database specialist is designing an enterprise application for a large company. The application uses Amazon DynamoDB with DynamoDB Accelerator, DAX. The database specialist observes that most of the queries are not found in the DAX cache and that they still require DynamoDB table reads. What should the database specialist review first to improve the utility of DAX? A. The DynamoDB consumed read capacity units metric. B. The trust relationship to perform the DynamoDB API calls. C. The DAX cluster's TTL setting. D. The validity of customer-specified AWS Key Management Service AWS KMS keys for DAX encryption at rest. Answer: C. 8. A company plans to migrate a MySQL-based application from an on-premises environment to AWS. The application performs database joins across several tables and uses indexes for faster query response times. The company needs the database to be highly available with automatic failover. Which solution on AWS will meet these requirements with the least operational overhead? A. Deploy an Amazon RDS DB instance with a RAID replica. B. Deploy an Amazon RDS multi-as DB instance. C. Deploy Amazon DynamoDB global tables. D. Deploy multiple Amazon RDS-DB instances. Use Amazon Route 53 DNS with failover health checks configured. Answer B. 9. A marketing company is using Amazon Document DB and requires that database audit logs be enabled. A database specialist needs to configure monitoring so that all data definition language (DDL) statements performed are visible to the administrator. The database specialist has set the audit_logs parameter to enabled in the cluster parameter group. What should the database specialist do to automatically collect the database logs for the administrator? A. Enable Document DB to export the logs to Amazon CloudWatch Logs. B. Enable Document DB to export the logs to AWS CloudTrail. C. Enable Document DB events to export the logs to Amazon CloudWatch Logs. D. Configure an AWS Lambda function to download the logs using the download DB log file portion operation and store the logs in Amazon S3. Answer C. 10. A database specialist is troubleshooting an application connection failure on an Amazon Aurora DB cluster with multiple Aurora replicas that had been running with no issues for the past 2 months. The connection failure lasted for 5 minutes and corrected itself after that. The database specialist reviewed the Amazon RDS events and determined a failover event occurred at that time. The failover process took around 15 seconds to complete. What is the most likely cause of the 5-minute connection outage? A. After a database crash, Aurora needed to replay the redo log from the last database checkpoint. B. The client-side application is caching the DNS data and its TTL is set too high. C. After failover, the Aurora DB cluster needs time to warm up before accepting client connections. D. There were no active Aurora replicas in the Aurora DB cluster. Answer B.